Well, yeah, I don't have to keep it a secret anymore. You know, that's a good thing. I can tell people about it, and I think I would have kept writing. And where I quit writing for years, and just I got lazy about that. I really wasn't inspired to write. I feel like this time has come for me to quit touring, which is what this is all about. No, but you retired. I'm going, no, I'm not. See?
George Strait's candid revelation has country music fans everywhere talking. The King of Country just made an admission that confirms what everyone has been quietly wondering about for years. Watch the video till the end to find out all the latest news that we have got.
Thing that people will finally realize that I'm not actually retiring. The only difference now is that I'm writing more than I used to. I don't want an album to go by. I'm gonna do 2 years now, and then I'm not gonna do the old tour anymore.
George Strait, the legendary country music icon with over 60 #1 singles and more than 105 million albums sold worldwide, has always kept his personal life intensely private. But in 2025, during a tour stop in Philadelphia, he said something that stopped fans in their tracks and sparked conversations across the entire country music community.
You know, it revolves around love. And love is something that if you lose it, it's going to hurt.
Before we get to what he finally admitted, let's look at the incredible journey that brought us to this moment. Country music didn't just get a star when George Strait came along. It got a new definition of what the genre could be across 4 decades. Born in 1952, Strait built something no other artist in country music has ever matched. 60 #1 singles, more than any other country artist in history, and he's the only artist to land a top 10 Billboard hit in each of 3 consecutive decades, while earning 17 CMA awards from a record-breaking 83 nominations. Numbers alone can't capture the full story, though. The King of Country title came because of his authenticity, his traditional sound, and his unwavering commitment to staying true to himself. Other artists chased trends or reinvented themselves every few years, but Strait remained steadfast. Songs like Amarillo by Morning, All My Exes Live in Texas, and Write This Down became timeless classics because they captured something real. Throughout his legendary career, Strait maintained an image that was almost impossibly clean, with no scandals, no controversies, no tell-all interviews or dramatic revelations. He married his high school sweetheart Norma in December 1971, and they've been together ever since, just shy of 53 years as of late 2024. In an industry where relationships often crumble under pressure, George and Norma Strait became the gold standard of lasting love. Ranch life in Texas fills his days, working with cattle, practicing horse roping, and living the traditional cowboy lifestyle that his music celebrates. As one profile noted, he's not really known for making public pronouncements of any kind. That privacy, that humility, that focus on the music rather than the celebrity, all became part of the Strait mystique. After years of selective performances, George Strait shocked the country music world in 2023 when he announced a 6-show stadium tour with Little Big Town and Chris Stapleton, his first regular tour since 2014, and fans jumped at the chance to see the King perform again. Touring wasn't enough, though, because Strait was breaking records too. June 2024 brought a performance at Texas A&M's Kyle Field in College Station that set the all-time United States ticketed concert attendance record with 110,905 fans. Nearly 111,000 people came to see George Strait perform, breaking a record that had stood since 1977 when the Grateful Dead performed in New Jersey. According to his website, Strait now holds more than 20 venue attendance records. September 2024 brought Cowboys and Dreamers, his 31st studio album, which he announced on May 16th during a live show, and the first single, MIA Down in MIA, debuted the very next day. The album featured a duet with Chris Stapleton called Honky Tonk Hall of Fame and opened at number 14 on the Billboard 200, moving approximately 27,000 units in its first week. At an age when most artists would be winding down, George Strait was proving he could still draw massive crowds and produce quality music. and the 2025 tour with Stapleton and Little Big Town continued, taking the King to arenas and stadiums across the country. Everything seemed perfect with the sold-out shows, the new music, the adoring fans, and it looked like George Strait could keep doing this forever. And that's when Philadelphia happened in May 2025. During his May 2025 performance in Philadelphia, something happened that alarmed fans who had come to see the seemingly invincible George Strait. Because mid-set, he briefly sat down and told the crowd that his back had given out. For an artist known for his energetic performances and his dedication to giving fans their money's worth, this was unprecedented. Fans who were there posted about their concern on social media, and video clips circulated showing the moment with worried comments flooding in from people who had watched Strait perform for decades and had never seen anything like this. But here's what really got people talking, because George Strait said something next that he'd never said so publicly before. Speaking candidly to the Philadelphia audience, Strait made an admission that changed everything when he told the crowd, "I have maybe 5 good years to sing my songs for you, but it's been around 50 now and I still love it. Just as much as I ever did, I figure a few." There it was. The admission everyone had quietly suspected, but nobody wanted to hear. George Strait, at 72 years old, was acknowledging that time was catching up with him and admitting that the endless touring, the constant performances, the decades of being the king of country all had to come to an end eventually. This wasn't a retirement announcement or a goodbye, but something more honest and, in many ways, more powerful. George Strait was being real with his fans about where he was in his life and his career. For anyone who's followed George Strait's career, that admission in Philadelphia confirmed what had been becoming increasingly obvious, because the King was thinking about his legacy and his future in a way he never had before. A January 2023 interview with Cowboys and Indians magazine had Strait talking about longevity in the music industry when he said, "Staying focused and believing that what you're doing is good is important. You have to believe in yourself. I always felt like I knew what worked for me and what didn't." He mentioned that he'd always aspired to have a career like Merle Haggard or George Jones, artists who remained relevant decades into their careers. By May 2025, though, reality was setting in, because the back problems that forced him to sit mid-show weren't just a one-time issue. They were a reminder that even the king of country is human, and his comment about maybe 5 good years wasn't pessimism, but an honest assessment from a man who knows his own body and his own limits. What George Strait was really admitting was this: he won't tour forever, and he's at peace with that. This represents a massive shift for an artist who has been a constant presence in country music since the early 1980s, and for fans who grew up with his music, who've seen him perform dozens of times over the years. This admission means something profound. The era of George Strait, the touring, the new albums, the stadium shows, now has an expiration date. Even as George Strait acknowledged his touring future was limited, the honors continued piling up in recognition of his incredible legacy. November 20th, 2024 brought the CMA Willie Nelson Lifetime Achievement Award, and during his acceptance speech, he thanked his family and said, "Especially Norma, who supported me for just shy of 53 years in December. It's been an amazing 53 years too." His son George Bubba Strait Jr., daughter-in-law Tamara, and grandchildren Jillianne, age 8, and Harvey, age 12, were all there to watch, and musical tributes from Miranda Lambert, Chris Stapleton, and Cody Johnson preceded his speech. October 2025 saw Strait make a surprise appearance at the Country Music Hall of Fame medallion ceremony to honor inductee Tony Brown, performing Troubadour for the crowd. The biggest honor came in December 2025 when George Strait was named a Kennedy Center honoree, receiving the Presidential Medal and being celebrated alongside Sylvester Stallone, the rock band Kiss, Michael Crawford, and Gloria Gaynor. President Trump's taped remarks praised Strait's music, saying his songs will always find a home wherever American patriots are found, while fellow artists Miranda Lambert, Brooks and Dunn, and Vince Gill performed tributes to honor the King of Country. The Kennedy Center noted that throughout his career, Strait has raised money for military and children's charities while maintaining his famously private image, and the ceremony took place on December 7th, 2025, with an air date set for December 23rd. These honors represent something bigger than just awards, though, because the industry isn't just celebrating George Strait's past, but recognizing that we're in the closing chapter of an unprecedented career. These are the awards you give to someone whose legacy is secure and whose place in history is undeniable. With George Strait's candid admission about his touring future and the brief health scare in Philadelphia, social media did what social media does best and went into overdrive with speculation and rumors. Posts started circulating claiming breaking news about Strait, with some saying he was seriously ill, others claiming there were marriage problems with Norma, and there were even stories about a supposed $500 million endorsement deal that he'd turned down. But here's the truth. None of these rumors have been verified by any credible source, and George Strait's reputation remains spotless. There have been no scandals, no controversies, no secret revelations beyond what he's openly shared with fans, and fact-checking websites have actively debunked many of these viral stories. What George Strait actually admitted in Philadelphia wasn't a shocking secret or a hidden truth, but simply an honest acknowledgement from a 72-year-old man that he can't tour forever. That's the admission everyone suspected, not because there was something wrong or scandalous, but because it's the natural progression of life. The King of Country is human after all. He gets tired, his back hurts, and he's thinking about spending more time with Norma on their Texas ranch, with their son and daughter-in-law, with those grandkids who are growing up fast. Based on his own words, we can expect George Strait to continue performing for the next few years, though probably on a more limited basis, and the 2025 tour continues. But don't expect another 50 years of constant touring. What we're likely witnessing is a gradual wind down rather than a sudden retirement. And Strait might follow the model of other country legends who perform select shows and special events rather than full tours. He might focus on recording new music without the grueling schedule of stadium performances, or he might simply decide that spending time with Norma, watching his grandchildren grow up, and living that ranch life he's always loved is more important than another record or another sold-out show, and that would be perfectly fine. George Strait doesn't owe anyone more than he's already given, because 60 #1 singles, 31 studio albums, over 105 million albums sold, more than 60 major industry awards, and 4 decades of being country music's most consistent, most authentic, most beloved artist means he's earned the right to slow down on his own terms. November 2024 brought the CMA Lifetime Achievement Award, and after thanking the industry and his fans, Strait focused on what mattered most when he said, "Norma supported me for just shy of 53 years in December. It's been an amazing 53 years too." That's what George Strait values. Not just the awards or the record-breaking concerts or the #1 singles, but the life he's built with the woman he's loved since high school, the family they've raised together, and the authenticity and groundedness that have defined him from the very beginning matter more than anything else. What George Strait finally admitted in Philadelphia, that he probably has about 5 good touring years left, isn't sad news, but honest news, real news. And in a way, it's fitting. George Strait has always been about authenticity, never pretending to be something he's not, never chasing trends or reinventing himself for commercial success. He's just been George, the Texas kid who loved country music and happened to become the greatest country artist of all time. Now, as he approaches the end of his touring career, he's being just as authentic about that transition, with no dramatic farewell tour announcements, no exploitation of his legacy for one last cash grab. Just an honest conversation with fans that goes, "I've got a few more years in me, and I'm going to give you everything I've got during that time. The King of Country is still the king, still setting attendance records, still releasing new albums that chart on Billboard, still receiving the highest honors in music. But he's also 72 years old with a bad back and a wife he'd like to spend more time with. That Philadelphia admission wasn't a secret revelation or a shocking confession, but simply George Strait being George Strait, honest, humble, and real. For fans, the message is clear. Don't take these next few years for granted, because if George Strait comes to your city, get tickets. If he releases new music, listen to it. And if you've always wanted to see the King perform live, now is the time. George Strait finally admitted what we all suspected. This incredible run won't last forever, and when it ends, country music will never quite be the same. The King of Country has given us more than we ever had a right to ask for, and now he's being honest about the fact that even kings have to rest eventually. If these really are the final years of George Strait's touring career, then we're witnessing the closing chapter of the greatest story country music has ever told. What George Strait admitted wasn't a scandal or a secret, but simply the truth. And in the end, that's the most George Strait thing he could have possibly done.